What is up, everybody? We're back here today for another Dokkan Battle theory video or discussion video, whatever you would like to call it. I know it's been a while since I've been doing videos, but school was, very important, and I'm probably going to be focusing on that a lot more this year, so there will be fewer videos, but when I don't have homework and I have a lot of free time, I'll definitely be pumping out 1 or 2 or even 3 videos a week. I'll try doing it on the weekends because that's when I have the most free time, obviously, but last night I sat down and I made some concepts for the Part 2 LRs and sort of what they're going to do and who they're going to be. I don't obviously think that their passives and stuff are going to, be spot on, because there's no way to know what they're going to do with the character. Pardon me, sorry, I'm just getting hiccups, but there's no way to know what they're going to do with the character in terms of their passive and stuff for the most part. Obviously, there's some stuff, like with Gojitas, they're giving super effective, and Super Saiyan 4s, they give count, the super counters and stuff. But besides that, you can't really predict 100%, but you can definitely predict what characters they're going to be. So let's just start with who I think the first LR of the 2 are going to be, and I think it's going to be 17 and Frieza, and their typing, I think, is going to be SDR. Since we haven't gotten an SDR LR yet this celebration, and they'd like to sort of have 4 different types LRs for those celebrations, as in last year we had Int, Viz, Tech and SDR, and the year before we had AGL, SDR, Tech, and no Tech, Int, and Baby's AGL. Well, that's 3, but anyway, they usually like to mix up the typings a little bit at least, and I don't think they're gonna buff AGL or Int any more than they already are buffed with these guys being in reference to the Dokkan Fest LRs. I don't think they're going to buff those teams any more than they already are from those 2 releasing. So I think they're going to be SDR, and let's just start reading out what they're doing. So their kit, or their name, is going to be Super, is going to be Unexpected Trust is the little title, Android 17, and Frieza Final Form Angel. He could also be golden, I don't know, but I just put him as just not golden, but this image I have here, he's obviously golden, so it could be either or, but I don't really know 100% what they're going to do, but it doesn't really matter too much. Their leader skill, I think, is going to be a USS category, Key +4, 130 to all stats, and then Super SDR, Key +4 and 100 to all stats. Just because we haven't gotten a Universe Survival Saga leader yet in this celebration, which is actually themed around the Universe Survival Saga, so I think it makes sense that we get at least one during the celebration, and I think they fit perfectly for that role. So onto their super attacks, we have the 12 key. Before I do this, I just want to say this video is probably going to be a little bit longer, so you guys already know that from looking at the watch time, but their 12 key is Key Barrage, and I don't think I actually had that image here, but that Key Barrage that I'm referencing there is when Toppo is versing 17, and 17 shoots that giant energy wave, and then Frieza comes up and shoots him in the back. I feel like we can definitely get an attack using stuff from that, as well as some other little attacks from the Toppo battle. And then their 18 key though will be when they're basically trying to delay Jiren from winning in the last few minutes of the Tournament of Power, and it's just 17 and Frieza left standing, and there's definitely some really cool shots with Frieza using his telekinesis, Android 17 doing the explosive barrier attack. They could definitely combo that. And then I also decided to give them a unit super, so I think that the condition is going to be perform an 18 key with in the same attacking turn as a character whose name includes Goku from Reps of Universe 7. The reason I didn't put Universe Survival Saga as the category is because this could also mean that you can use the Goku from the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament, so that if we get a new Kaioken Blue Goku, which we presumably will in the future, he will definitely be really good to run alongside him. So I think the unit super will be obviously the final attack with Goku, Frieza, and 17. Even though the one we have in game with Tech, Goku and Frieza, is really good. It's still that sort of low quality form of attack where you can sort of tell that they're not fully animated, and it's very easily differentiated from the show, but we definitely could get an updated one like the recent ones that we've been getting in 6th year and just in general. I think that would look really sick, and I think it could start off with this little barrier, like the barrier push thing they do against like Jiren when he has this giant like key wall or whatever you want to call it, because we don't have that in it as an animation, and I think that's like the best part of that fight is when they're all talking together before they push up to fight Jiren. I think the unit super itself will be a massive raise of attack for 1 turn, and then raises all allies' chance of performing a critical hit by 30% for 1 turn. I don't think I read for 1 turn, but it's for 1 turn, and that's similar to the recently released Year 6 LRs, except this is for all allies, but it's a lower chance, and I think this would be really good in tandem with those new units, because then if you have the new LRs super on these guys, and these guys super first, or even, I was going to say double super, but you can't double unit super, but if they super first, then those new LRs are going to have an 80% initial chance to crit, which is just nuts, and that with their giant attack buff there would be really good. Their passive, as well as their active skill, we'll start with the passive, I guess. So, the defining battle, defense plus 77% at the start of turn. That says turb. I just realized it says turb. Let me change that real quick. At start of turn. And then they get 140% attack and performing a super. Sorry about that, my dogs are being a little bit loud, so I just went and made them be quiet. That sounds kind of sus. But attack plus 140% when performing a super, key plus 1 of each attack received up to 7. So as you can see, they get attack on super, which obviously makes them hit harder, just like the old tech Goku and Frieza, who get all their buffs on super, except these guys get a lower defensive buff as well as a lower offensive buff as well. But the defense is start of turn instead of just being on super, so they will have a decent defensive stat pre-super, and have a pretty good offensive stat post-super, obviously, because they're a LR, with that on super attack buff, which is way larger than the attack buff, like, just at the start of turn. I just dropped my drink bottle on the floor, nice. And he also gets key plus 1 with each attack received, up to 7, which is obviously really good. This key is so important, especially for LRs, so they'll be starting off at 11 key on a normal 3 key leader skill. They have a great chance to evade enemy attacks, just from start of turn, just like UI does, and they also have a damage received minus 7%, as well as minus 7% chance to dodge for every super attack performed. So what this means is they will start off with a 70% chance to evade attacks. But as they do more supers, I sort of try to do it like they're getting tired, so they have less mobility in like the show. So they are losing their chance to dodge the more times they super, but in return you're getting the damage received, and that also sort of works because LR Vegeta has damage received, AGL UI has dodge, so it's sort of a combination of those two characteristics, and it will basically get up to you having 50% damage received around there, and a minus 40% chance to dodge, so in the end you're going to be looking at a medium chance to evade attacks, as well as a 50% chance, not 50% chance, 50% damage received, so that's really, really good. So that will be after 7 supers for the damage received, and 6 supers for the dodge chance, so you won't have the full damage received before you have the full dodge minus. So it's a negative and a positive, so you could actually just not super with these guys and leave them as a dodge character, but because their key build up in their passive, they will eventually have to super if you're getting them hit, or they're just evading attacks, so maybe they don't get hit that much. So that's really up to you how you use these guys. These guys are sort of more like, I would say, the Broly trio than Rose, in how they have a little bit of a quirk that a lot of units don't sort of have in their passive. So they're also a Rest of Universe 7 support unit for key plus 2, as well as attack and defense plus 7% per USS category ally. So the more category allies in Universe Survival Saga, the more that they buff the attack and defense of the Rest of Universe 7 allies, and that can go up to 35%, so up to 5 allies to get their full support ability passive sort of active. So speaking of active, their active condition can be activated when HP falls below 33%. I don't know why I didn't say percent there. And it basically is when 17 makes the wish using the Dragon Balls, which is a really important part. that we don't have in game yet in any form of animation. So I think that would be a cool heal, because he does wish everyone back, so it's like a heal for 77%. So you'll go up to full if you're on 33%, and then it also is a small attack buff similar to the Icarus and Kid Gohan memory, giving 10% attack and defense for 1 turn, just to get that little buff. So it's mainly a heal, but it has a little bit of a support in there as well, so that's just a sort of cool little thing that they have on the side. Similar to kind of Int Cell in how he gets a heal, but the heal is obviously less effective, and but it can be activated slightly 3% higher, but then it has a bonus, so it's like evens out to be as good as Int Cells, I think. So that's pretty good. Their links and categories are as followed. I'm not going to really go over them too much. They share a decent amount of links with the LR Go Freezer, besides Brainiacs, I believe, and Sold Support. No, they might have Sold Support, I don't know, but I know they don't have Brainiacs, so almost a full link share with the Go Freezer, so they're going to be a great partner for them, obviously. So on to the next LR, which I'm going to be having here, is Fizz Topo. So Super Fizz Topo, Meaningless Justice at Topo. I don't know why I said Topo so many times there, but his leader skill is Last Resort, or it's Final Trump card, but I prefer Last Resort, as I've said many times, so I'm going to call it Last Resort. So we don't actually have another category leader for this besides the LR Blue Fusions. I don't know if they're going to be, I think they're pretty hesitant to release another leader, so because that category is so good and they want to make the Blue Fusions, like add it to the Blue Fusion selling point, but I feel like this is a good place to add another leader. Even though it's only 130%, this guy is going to be really, really good for the team. We'll talk about that in a sec, but he is also a Super Fizz buff in terms of his leader skill, and it's the 4k 130, 4k 100, as you can see. So onto his supers, he has the thing that he says a million times and uses a million times, Justice Flash, these little finger beams, and it similarly to the SDR God Topo support unit, it raises allies' stats on super, so he raises defense by 30% on his 12k for all allies for on turn, and it's also an AoE, and that's going to be really important for a thing that we'll touch on in a second in his passive. But his 18k is the same thing in terms of raising defense, but it additionally raises attack, and it is for 2 turns, so it will affect the next rotation. So if you have 2 of these guys, if you're using 2, so maybe you run 1 Blue Fusion as the leader, 1 of this guy as the friend leader, and then 1 on your team, and then you have 1 on each rotation, and then if you get his 18k off, you're actually going to be giving a 60% buff to their rotation at all times, which is just nuts. But it's only single target, so you lose that target all effect, which is really important, and I'll touch on why in a second, I guess. Yeah. So his passive as well as his revival skill here. So his passive is Last Remaining Values. Attack and defense was 111% at the start of turn for Universe 11. Pretty self-explanatory. Even though that seems like a massive buff, we've gotten LRs like Jiren who have 200% at the start of turn, so it actually isn't too much, and especially because when you have a start of turn buff, it's much weaker to a built-up buff. So like SDR LRUI, for example, he probably has like 220% attack and defense, but on his passive, from reading it, it looks like that he only has like 154%, I think. So it factors in differently when it's built up. So the start of turn 1 is actually pretty weak, so this guy won't have the highest defense, but still pretty decent stats overall. He's a support unit for Key plus 2 and 40% attack, similarly to the other God Topo, except he doesn't give defense, and he gets an extra key. So he has the effect that some units have. I don't think too many units have it, but it's a really good effect. I know free-to-play Guldo has it, as well as the Angel Freezer, the Fizz one. And it is attacked enemy attack and defense minus 11%, and because this guy has an AoE attack on his 12k, that makes it super valuable because you're going to be lowering all enemy attack and defense by 11%, and then that also helps Jiren, the LR1, get his passive off, which is when enemy has lowered attack and or defense, he gets the super effective. So that's how this guy is going to be helping Jiren, but you want to be supering obviously in slot 1 to get that active. So his chance to evade all enemy attacks plus 11% per attack received in a turn. So it's similar to how Int Vegeta works, how the more he gets attacked, the more damage received he builds up for that turn. This guy's a similar thing, except it's the dodge chance that he builds up for that turn. Sort of like SGR Janemba EZA as well, if you guys know about his sort of EZA, except this guy has to get hit in order to build up the dodge. So the more attacks you receive, the more chance you're going to have to dodge attacks and take no damage. I sort of like that mechanic that I've sort of made up there, because I don't think any other unit has this. And that can get up to 66%, so basically a great chance to evade. But obviously you have to get hit a bunch of times, 6 times for that to activate. But I could definitely see that being useful in the God of Destruction event. So allies whose name include Dispo or Jiren gain an additional key plus 2 in defense plus 40% on the rotation. So if you have another Universe 11 character out of like the big trio in the Tournament of Power, which is Dispo, Jiren and Toppo, if you have one of those two in your team on that rotation with this guy, they're going to be getting key plus 4 and attack and defense plus 40%. So for LR Jiren, this is obviously a big deal, because that's probably one of his bigger problems, I would say, is his key in some departments before he receives attacks, because he gets key on an attack after receiving attack, he builds up key. So this would help him before he has built up that key to get those 18 keys off just right off the bat and be really, really good. And just for a little bonus, he has 11% damage reduction. Nothing too amazing, obviously, but it will definitely help out because he doesn't have the highest defensive buff in the world. So the reason why I didn't give him too high of a defense, though, is so he can get off his revival / transformation easier. So he has the revival / transformation. Justice won't save our universe, and when entering attacking turn, similarly to the recent LRs, oh my god, voice crack. If HP is below 70% when entering the turn, so obviously with the recent LRs they have to be below 50%. So this is a massive benefit, I guess. I don't know what to say, and it's a massive upgrade from them, I guess, because 77% is way easier to fall below than 50% in this game. So especially in those difficult modes, I feel like 77% is pretty realistic to get below. And another Universe 7 ally has to be on the team, which is pretty easy on all these teams. I believe you can get this, even Last Resort, because you can use the God Toppo, which has a different name obviously, so he will also activate this ability. And he also has to receive 2 attacks, so you can't do this turn 2, so you can't come in turn 1 and then some other unit takes a bunch of damage and then you go to the next turn and then you can revive. You do have to take 2 hits, just so you can't do that immediately, because I feel like that would be a little bit too broken, but it's still, I would say, better than the current unit's revival conditions that we have as of now, because there's no rotation conditions and there's no super low health conditions. So, and obviously if his HP to reach 0, he revives at only 11%, so as I said before, his revival is way easier to get than the other revival characters at this point in time, but his HP that you get is severely less. So it's an easier revival, but I think the main point of revival that it's really good is not dying and not the heal. So the heal is good, but I would say the more important part is just not dying. So that's why he has a lower heal, but an easier condition. The links and categories here for his pre-transform version, as you can see, blah blah blah. His link set is basically the exact same, I believe, as the SDR God Toppo, I believe, besides legendary power and something else, but it's still very similar to him. And his category is nothing surprising here, except he won't have transformation boost because I don't consider it a transformation, and I don't think Dokkan would either, because if you guys know, Tech MV, when he transforms into Margin Vegeta, it isn't considered a transformation, and that's why I feel like he should have been a base to Super Saiyan 2 Margin Vegeta, which makes more sense in the show as well, because he never goes Super Saiyan 2 until he goes Margin. But that aside, it's technically not a transformation. He's sort of just accessing his god powers, so I wouldn't call it a transformation at all. So on to his transform state. His 12 key is "You Are Garbage," and as you can see, it's the bottom image there. It's when he basically goes up to Frieza and like crushes his skull in his hands, and like goes super like hard on Frieza, and uses the same quote that Frieza says to him earlier when he's almost on defeat. So that's probably one of my favorite scenes of God Toppo, so that's nice to have in there. And it lowers greatly the enemy attack and defense, which is great to be alongside Jiren with if you're going to be greatly lowering both stats, which is amazing. But obviously he loses that support that he has on his super here, and instead gets the debuff effect. So instead of helping allies, he's hurting the enemy. His 18 key is like Hakai, and this could either be like the tracking one that he uses against 17, or the giant one he uses against Blue Vegeta. Either one I think would work really well, and it greatly raises attack as well as greatly lowering enemy attack and defense, and causes mega colossal damage to the enemy. So he also loses his AoE that he has pre-transformed as well. But as you're about to see, I think it's well worth it when we go to his passive. So his passive is Strength is Justice. Remember, this is at least a turn 5 transformation, so this is not going to be a super easy transformation, but easier than some of the more difficult ones in the game, like the Year 3 LRs or into Goku Black. Those ones are really hard to get. This guy's sort of in between those. I feel like turn 5 you're definitely going to see it a lot. And it's key plus 1, attack and defense is 110% at the start of turn. So obviously he has 1% less attack and defense at the start of turn, but he has an extra key. And he has some effect to 17 and Frieza, where he gets attack and defense on super, and this actually builds up. So the more supers you do, the more attack and defense you get on super. So if you do an additional super in a turn, you get 2 of these built up, so then that's 22%, and then you can keep basically stacking that effect up to 110%, so you're going to be getting how that multiplies into itself. Like I said before with SDA LRUI, this is probably close to 300% attack and defense for an LR who greatly raised his attack on 18 key, which is really nuts. He reduces damage received by 6% per attack received, like the Int LR Vegeta, except he doesn't have to build this up every turn. This is just the permanent thing that he gets, so he'll keep that after receiving an attack. 36% is not a lot, but it's definitely very noticeable. Similar to SDR LR Goku and Vegeta from the Worldwide Celebration, they have 30%. This guy has a slight advantage over them, I'd say. So he performs an additional attack, so just a normal attack. There's a high chance to become a super, 50%, so like I said before, this guy's going to be putting out so many attacks, and that's going to be ramping up his damage, and it's going to be getting like super high. And he also guaranteed crits when there's a Universe of Our Saga category enemy, and that's obviously amazing, because especially with all the events coming out now, like the God of Destruction event, they're all on Universe of Our Saga, so he's going to be critting all the time. And he also gives a small key buff, which I think is the more important of his little buff there. He gives 2 key to all allies and 11% attack and defense. Obviously the key there is super important. The attack and defense not so much, but it's a small little buff which is definitely going to be helpful in some situations. So as you can see, that is the concepts we had here today. Let me know what you guys think. I definitely think I did some cool things with both the Toppo and the other guys to make them pretty standard in some ways, but also pretty unique in others, and I think definitely could see some of these parts of the passive coming in to these new units. Obviously it's not going to be exact, but let me know if you guys had any thoughts on these, or even your own concepts. So thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, obviously like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.